So, welcome back everyone to our tutorial series, this time about AI. And I'm pretty sure you've heard about DeepSeek, our run shattering the industry. And somehow they managed to make an AI model which just requires a tiny fraction of the GPU amount, especially for training, and then applying it to smaller models such that you can even use it in your home machine. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how you can even run a small version on your MacBook. And actually, it's doing quite well. Like my MacBook currently has 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is basically equivalent to virtual RAM, like for example in NVIDIA GPUs or AMD GPUs. And this opens up so many possibilities. Like you could even host it in a cloud machine, in a cloud server. And actually, the 16 gigabyte VRAM results compared to, for example, LLaMA 3 are insane. Like it's way better than something else I've seen before. And I can just recommend that you are going to try it out. And actually, I will show you that it's super easy to get set up. And I mean, we are doing it quite visually in our Mac machine now, but I mean, you can install it on a server and it's quite easy to get set up and started. So, like you might have seen, the main model is a 671 billion parameter model, which would require quite a hefty server still, but they distilled their model down into other versions, like basically taking the LLaMA model or Quen model, for example, and teach it with the DeepSeek knowledge such that we can use a smaller version as well and still get quite decent results. I mean, you can see the differences here, and there's a lot of materials, but as I want to keep this short, I just want to get started. And they are recommending LLaMA, but in my opinion, the easier combination is Ollama, which is a really nice tool to host different LLMs. Like you can really easily try out different models locally without needing to worry about different setups. Especially on Mac, you don't even need to worry about drivers and so on, and no CUDA setup, and you can just get started. And in combination with that, we're going to use Chatbox, which is the GUI component. So basically that you have a nice chat interface. But in the tutorial, I also want to dive into a Python interface. And I will show you how you can even chat with the local model or a server model. In this case, using Ollama as a backend quite easily. But for now, let's get started with the visual stuff. In Mac, if you have Homebrew installed, it's quite easy. Like you just have to type in brew install Ollama, brew install cask Chatbox, and you're ready to go. And Ollama is run via the terminal, even though there are different GUI applications for it, but it's quite easy, so we can just use this. And the first step is to find the right size of this model. And heading over to Ollama, they have a nice library, and I already selected DeepSeek R1. And as we can see here, they have the 1.5 billion, 7B, 8B, 14B, and so on models. And they are all the distilled versions that we've seen on the GitHub page of DeepSeek. And roughly said, you would choose a number that is slightly lower than your RAM amount. So for example, if you're on the MacBook, you might get away with the 8B model, but it could be really limited because there's a ton of other stuff running on your computer as well. But for example, with the 16 gigabyte MacBook, you can run the 14B model quite well, even though I have experienced if you're running a lot of GPU intensive stuff, like having, I don't know, browsers open with many tabs, different applications open, it's maybe a little bit limited and slow. I mean, if you need a quick response, I would choose the 8B model. on a 16GB MacBook. But if you're looking for more quality-based results, you would choose the 14B model. Then, of course, if you're having one of these really big MacBooks, 64GB VRAM, you could even choose the 32B model. And of course, I mean, if you're having a server, you could have a look at the 70B or even 671B model. But as I said in this tutorial, we are going to look at consumer hardware, 14B, 8B, and they are already showing you the command, how to start it. And in our case, we will choose the 14B model. So if you want to run this, you can just paste it in here. Ollama Run DeepSeek R1 14B. If it's your first time, it's first going to download it. It will be, like we've seen here, 9GB of storage required. And we could start chatting in here, but like I said, we are going to use Chatbox, which is a nice little GUI. And in Chatbox, we can either click on the global settings or like I just did on the chat-based settings. And I have selected the Ollama API provider. Like there are many different ones, but Chatbox is working with Ollama. The URL is set by default. And in here, I can select all Ollama models I have downloaded. In our case, we're going to select DeepSeek. For temperature, they are recommending anything between 0.5 and 0.7. This is coming from the DeepSeek developers. And for this tutorial, I'm going to choose temperature 0.6. It's safe. And they also recommend not playing around with or not delivering the task in the system prompt, like you would have done it usually, but in the user prompt. So in our case, I will just leave this as default. You're a helpful assistant. And in my message, I'm going to paste, I've just pre-typed it. We can delete it as well. And I will just type it in here. How would you write a RUC in Python using a re-ranker? This is something we're going to look at later on in another tutorial. But I just want to show you how the results are looking like. And now I've hit enter, and as you can already see, it's way slower than the web version of DeepSeek, but like as I said, we are going to look at the local version, and as this is running on my own computer right now, it's of course taking a little time longer. Even though, in my opinion, it's quite amazing that it's even having this deep knowledge about, for example, RUC algorithms or any other algorithms in just 10GB of storage space. And if you're thinking about it, that is definitely crazy. Especially if you would have run this question with LLaMA 3, for example, it would be way worse. Like, not at all in this direction and more hallucinations. So I'm actually quite impressed. And this would go on and on, but like as I have promised you, I want to take a look at the Python interface as well. And the nice thing about Ollama is that we can just use our normal OpenAI package. And we are setting the base URL to localhost 11434/v1. And API key is required in this library, but we can set it to whatever. And then we can actually communicate with the local DeepSeek as you would have done it with OpenAI, for example. The important thing is still to select DeepSeek in here. And that way we can even, like I said, just communicate with Python, with our DeepSeek model in the background, without too much setup. And for me, this is quite a game changer because, for example, in some applications, I'm still running the really beefy questions via OpenRouter or like any other API provider of public AI models, but if I have sensitive stuff that isn't allowed to run in the cloud, or if I just have small tasks, like for example asking the AI, does it contain numbers or whatever, then I can use this local version. And as I'm not streaming the answer, the response will quite take some time, because unlike the Chatbox interface where we streamed, this Python setup is waiting until the response is finished, and of course it will take some time. But I mean, if we would be using streaming, which I will show in another tutorial, we could already see results appearing. But yeah, in order to not keep the video too long, because this will take, I don't know, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, I will end it here. So let me know if you want to find out more about AI and what tutorials I should do next. And of course, if you're up for a little consulting session, if you have any projects in mind, just head over to my website and we could have a little chat. All right, that's it for now. See you around. Bye bye.